All right, welcome back to the Virtue Bowling Supply YouTube channel. My name is Chris and I'm here to bring you guys the high rev perspective.
And my name is Josh and I'll be bringing the low rev perspective.
Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Brunswick Strategy, and I'm going to be comparing that to the Hammer Full Effect and the Storm Next Factor.
And I'll also be comparing it to the Hammer Full Effect and the Storm Next Factor. These comparisons will give us and you an idea of what these pieces look like going down the lane. At the end, we will give our honest, unbiased review anywhere from nuts to trash. We are here at Mesa East on a fresh house shot. With that being said, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you out on the lanes.
All right, after seeing the Strategy go down the lane, to me this one is definitely a stronger asymmetric piece. It's not quite as early as something like a Zero Mercy Pearl, but it sees it earlier than most. The misses to the right, I feel like were pretty quick, more than I kind of anticipated it gonna be, but to me, I feel like keeping it more in front of me, still being left just to find oil and keeping my angles more in front of me looked quite a bit better, just because I felt like if I got it to the right a little too quick, it jumped off the spot. It wasn't quite as blendy. So to me, having a little bit more volume on the lanes, this one's gonna look pretty good. Now I'm gonna go ahead and throw the Full Effect and see how that compares. I thought these were going to be pretty close, but I feel like the Full Effect is quite a bit stronger and a little bit earlier and a little smoother off the friction than the Strategy to me. Even though it was stronger, I feel like I had to be more on top of it. I had to move about a set to the right just because of how smooth it wanted to be off the friction. I think the Full Effect is just a more forward shape overall. It's still pretty quick to friction when you get it there, but you really need to get it there to be able to kind of shape it. It's definitely a more forward ball motion. So now I'm gonna go ahead and throw the Next Factor and see how that compares. All right, after seeing the Next Factor go down the lane, this one's definitely a weaker end of a asymmetric Pearl, but it's really, really quick to friction. I really see that more down lane snappy reaction with the Next Factor, whereas where the Strategy was earlier and more chuggy. This one, I had to move left just because of how quick to friction it was. If I got it there too quick, it hockey stick. Getting it more to the gutter or to the friction down lane was much better. It definitely feels bigger because of how quick it is. But definitely a step down from the Strategy. All right, final thoughts on the Strategy. To me, ball reaction here was pretty good. I feel like when I threw it really good, it had that really forward, but still slightly continuous. It didn't finish through the 9-pin as many times. I feel like this ball definitely needs a little bit more volume on the lanes. I could definitely tell that just because of how left I kind of had to move. I still think ball motion was good enough and versatile enough to give it a fire, but I definitely think if there's not as much volume on the lanes, this one's not going to get quite as much use.
For me, this ball was definitely a little bigger than I anticipated it to be. I did feel like it was, kind of that bigger asim spot in the bag where you just need a ball that is not quite as big as like an Ion Max, but still can shape a little bit more downlane than that, but still definitely in the big asim Pearl category. I did feel like this ball for me, when I missed in, looked pretty okay. Once I started to move a little further left, the miss in got not so great just because the ball was so big. But generally, when I missed in, it hooked off of it, which not a lot of other bowling balls did that today. When I missed in, that just typically a little bit flooded in the middle right now, and that ball was like one of the only balls that read it right. Every ball has been hooking off the friction, but I, always look for both misses, not just one. And this ball definitely gave me both misses. So now we're gonna go ahead and throw the Full Effect next. For me, the Strategy didn't give me a bad ball motion, but this one gave me one notch better than the Strategy. I did feel like this ball did get through the fronts just a little bit more, in my opinion, a little cleaner, but also just overall shaped more off the spot than the Strategy. I do feel like even though it's a hybrid, I do feel like the Strategy was earlier. I can see myself throwing that sooner and before the Full Effect, and just because I feel like with the Full Effect I could also shape it more when I'm trying to get further left. It's still big enough to where it would hook, but Again, one of those more controlled, bigger, sharper asyms that you could still bend the lane with, where I don't see myself doing that with the strategy. I felt like the strategy was just too forward to do that. So now we're gonna go ahead and throw the next factor and see how that compares. For me, this ball was kind of a similar ball to the strategy and where it hooked, but definitely a lot quicker off of friction. The way it responded to that friction spot, you know, even though it was maybe at the same distance, definitely a lot more angular and a lot snappier, some would say. I did feel like this ball I had to be aware of when I got it to friction just because of how quick it wanted to respond to it. So it definitely was a ball where I needed to jump a little bit further left. I kind of was a little resistant to that at first, but once I got there, the ball still looked money. I mean, it just, again, was definitely a ball that's quicker to friction, so just be a little bit more pattern aware as to when you're going to use this one, because, you know, if there's a little bit more friction kind of everywhere, this ball is going to be maybe a little too jumpy at points. Final thoughts on the strategy. For me, this type of ball has always been my favorite category. Just love the bigger asym pearls. For me, however, this one was kind of a different one. You know, it definitely was a little bit more forward than I was anticipating, but for today, I am gonna give this ball a fire. I do feel like this one is kind of teetering between fire and meh, but for me, I felt like it still was big enough and blended the lane out to where I couldn't really not give it a fire. So it's gonna be a fire for today.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you found this video useful, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.